Be prepared for a wild Wednesday because we have some big implied volatility coming in for tomorrow. I'm just going to let you know these daily expected moves for the SPY and especially the Qs are massive. And then after that, we do have NVIDIA earnings after hours. So we have a lot to get into as we do some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, AMD, and Meta, looking over at AMC and GME, popping over to volatility as well at the end of this video. Let's just hop right into it. Now, if you're a day trader and you had the daily expected moves, man, did you like today? Because there were some opportunities. You reacted down to the bottom side expected move and notice that we're in a similar area. And then we actually reacted all the way up to that daily expected move upside. So very, very cool day from the SPY. But one thing I do want you to notice here is first off the 2 hour. And I guess I should give you the daily expected moves first. Let's talk about those. 596.50 to the upside, really, really close to a weekly expected move. This one hasn't shifted too much from the previous daily expected move, but it is 584.10 to the downside. Those are your daily expected moves. So one thing we should be aware of is the fact that the 2 hour has not crossed and we experienced a big drop. And when that big drop usually happens, a lot of the time you will reconnect and test the 5. Are we going to take it back or are we going to reject? And the best part about this question at this time is the 2 hour hasn't confirmed up. So if that 2 hour does confirm up, that would say, hey, most likely we are going to see a tag of that upward expected move for the 2 hour. So that 2 hour curls up into positive territory. That would be the overall bullish take. But because we have a pretty wide range, I think we need to also pay attention to the other side. And the other side of this trade would be that the 30-minute is positive. Yeah, it's positive, but is it positive enough that it can say, hey, I am totally okay crossing over and not able to go negative? No, it is right by that center line. So the 30-minute turning down would be a bad thing. Now, if we are going to base out like this, I mean, you guys, we were talking about this for a few days now. We were looking for something similar to this. Well, let's see, down, up, back down to the low, and now up, and maybe that 2 hour is going to cross up, and we're going to see some positivity. We got down, up, down to the low, back up, and maybe we're going to turn up that 2 hour and see some positivity. Okay, so now we see actually the structure that we were kind of planning out all weekend. We notice that that is taking place, and we have to see if that is going to reject from the 5 and turn down on this 30-minute. Hey, we can still cut that low for a moment, right? We can still retest this area. We could even head lower. If this wants to get really ugly, then this might be some kind of cup and handle that could end up going lower. But right now, I would pay attention to that 30-minute. If we're going to get some higher implied volatility, and that's going to affect the market throughout the day, we could see this 30-minute turn down early on throughout the day, and then actually see that scoop back up by the end. And we might actually see not just a rejection divergence like we see here on the MACD and RSI, but maybe we actually do curl down and curl back up into positive territory when all is said and done. So that's what I'd pay attention to for the SPY. Look for the 30-minute to curl down. That would be the bearish case, and the bullish case would be if that 2 hour can just confirm the swing trade. Qs not able to get to a daily expected move, and you notice it's in the similar spot, so not able to go to the daily expected move, just rejecting. But is it, once again on this 30-minute, is it really that safe? Well, if that does curl down, that can go into negative territory, which means you do have a chance to make a higher low. You do have that that opportunity, right? You always do. If you're able to go positive, you have that, but it's so close to negative territory that that could still need to test this low, go make a new one. So we will be paying attention to the fact that we are retesting that 5 as of the end of the day. If we see some major selling come in, Russia stuff is starting to really escalate, we could see that divergence not just be some kind of lower high rejection, but instead actually come down and make that divergence because we do have higher implied volatility. Speaking of implied volatility, man, I should give you those daily expected moves, at least talk about them for a second, because 511.22 is sitting up by our liquidity up in here. And if we get outside of that, that would take you outside of a weekly expected move. So watch out for that. It doesn't mean it can't continue in the upward direction, but if we see reversal signals outside of this monthly, we're going to have the blinkers on. Now, the downside expected move is in our buy zone. That's why if we dip down into there, you don't necessarily have to say, oh my gosh, everything's ripping down to the floor. We're still paying attention to the fact that the weeklies haven't crossed here, so we'll keep paying attention to that. The 2 hour swing trade would be the bullish thing here for the Qs, and it's nice because they didn't cross on the last bar of the day, which is the wonky one for the 2 hour. But when we do cross, it's nice. We're already above the 9, so if we're able to take back that 5 and then NVIDIA doesn't ruin things, technically this would say, hey, what are we going to do? well, I'm a little bit negative, so you got to watch out in case that's a liquidity grab and falls short. But if this curls up, you do have a good chance to test that high, maybe even go make a new one. This is where I would watch out for some kind of trap. Unfortunately, with the implied volatility tomorrow, most likely there will be a trap in one direction at some point throughout the day. Apple is one I'm actually very worried about to curl over on a 2-hour chart, and that's just because when you open up the 30-minute, you see a bunch of little divergences in here. You see those divergences on the MACD, you see them on the RSI at the same time. So if Apple's telling us anything, it's telling us it's weak. Okay, it's showing the flatness here got more significant all the way on the RSI. So this is saying that 2-hour might need to back off. Big problem with that 2-hour backing off is if that goes negative, we can start to go lower, but notice it is a little more positive as of today. So that could be a good thing. That could actually just turn down, go into our buy zone real quick, and we'll see if that whips back around, which would make sense. If Apple's saying anything, it's saying that move for the Qs might be that 30-minute move down, and then see if Apple's able to gain this thing back. But if that 2-hour crosses, it's not necessarily a good thing for the stock. Tesla is still gearing up, right? Able to cross up on the 2-hour now, so that would lead us to believe we're going to test this high, go make a new one. We'll see what happens with this one in the morning, just because your weekly expected move for this is kind of lackluster, okay? Your weekly expected move is right above where you're at right now, so if you do get a good sign out of this, that could be some kind of trap. Look for weakness in momentum if you do see that 2-hour continue in the upward direction and confirm back down. Make sure those things are confirming. The 30-minute, what I wanted to talk about here is it is technically still negative, but this is good. This is good price action, right? We're gearing up, right? And we consolidate right before we break through resistance. I think it's good. We even dipped down and now we're holding sideways. So we'll see if this comes to fruition, if this 30-minute is able to curl up into positive territory. It is turned down right now. So if that 2-hour rotates down right away, you got to say this could be some kind of move to go grab buyers at a lower level for Tesla. Amazon did a nice little thing, right? Created those divergence points, right? Created the divergence points down here. Not necessarily, I don't believe it was outside of a weekly expected move or anything like that, but little rejection divergence. Are we out of the woods yet? We're getting close, but that 5-day, you really want to take back that 5-day. This one, the 2-hour, is close to crossing up, but it's not crossed up yet. That's why we have to still be patient and make sure this isn't just some kind of retest of the 5-day moving average, because this is very close to the center line for the 30-minute. Now, does this mean it's dead? No, I could probably connect a line here if we see some sell-off like this. If we're able to hold up and hold that tapering and we curl up into positive territory, you might have a simple trade right when everyone thinks this thing is tanking. It might actually bounce. Does that mean it has to bounce? If it crosses down, that's bad. It's when it crosses back up, that's the weakness in momentum, and that's the probable opportunity for this thing to actually reverse from going down to actually end up taking back that 5-day and heading in the upward direction. NVIDIA, great move. Little too great of a move, in my opinion. You get a very, very small handle here, and you're just kind of trickling up over time. And I was looking at stocks that compete with NVIDIA, and a lot of them have a lot of short selling going into them. And I don't want to read into it too much, but it's kind of weird for them to really be suppressing those other stocks before NVIDIA earnings. I'm just interested to see if I figure out anything on that. I will let you guys know. But the worrisome thing is this just some kind of rapid liquidity grab before we get some bad news? Because that could happen. This is how these things take place, right? That's how they trick people a lot. And you do see, though, the 2-hour was able to curl up, and that's about to go positive. So if we just read into the indicators here, and we've been talking about this for a while, right? This divergence led to a big drop. We found that at the end of October. Called it to a T, and then we noticed that we held the divergence flat across. We held the divergence flat across here for that MACD and RSI, and we just said, hey, yeah, even if this sees something dramatic, that's the weakness in momentum coming in again, and all that news probably with Russia and stuff like that, and Jerome Powell. But we want to notice that curled up again. And we were always talking about, hey, maybe you do need to make that divergence in the near price action. And that looks like it's very possible as this 2-hour has curled up down here. So watch out if that does make the upward move first. And we do see that create a divergence. That is weakness in momentum. But just a note here for NVIDIA, again, we're talking about technicals, and that's great. I'm not going to touch the stock, guys, because of that E down there. It's a 50-50 flip. I'm going to say it every single time. I won't be playing anything with NVIDIA unless I'm using my fun account. AMD actually doing something interesting, right? And someone did point this out, so that's good, Onda. I believe you pointed that out. I'll give you a shout out here, but I just wanted to remind him or her, that this right here is divergence, yes, but it's on the MACD, not the RSI at the same time. That RSI is not proving it, so there is always the opportunity that you need to dip down to grab those buyers. Maybe a quick flash move, maybe this 2 hour turns down, turns right back up, okay? But what we want to pay attention to is what's happening now. Well, we're getting a test of the 5-day moving average, and then towards the end of the day we actually were able to take that back. It really looked like we were going to flag, retest it again, and end up heading down. Didn't happen, right? So at the end of the day you actually were able to curl this up, which would lead you to believe, as you're taking back the 5, you have some weakness in momentum signals, not the best ones, but you do have it, that it might be trying to carve out a higher low here, and it's reacting right to where you would want it to start to create some kind of handle. So we'll see if that can break to the upside for AMD. The way that you know this thing is going to see a bigger reversal is just if that little 2 hour MACD divergence is not on the RSI at the same time. But if this daily can curl up, you might have a little swing trade here to go up for AMD in the short term. Meta, great stuff, because we did want it to doodle around in here a little bit and then get that confirmation. So did we actually get the confirmation with all these touches of these lows in here? A lot of rejection going on, but not the most clear, so we don't want to talk about that. We mainly just want to say on the 30-minute, if this would fail where it's at right now, it's still negative. So watch out if that 30-minute does cross down. We might need to reach down and grab some more buyers. If that's going to reverse around, you're gonna see the MACD curl back up down here and go back above that center line. If we're going to see this go up right away tomorrow, well, we got to pull up the 2 hour and see, has that crossed? Not necessarily. So if this does see positivity tomorrow, hey, that's fantastic. You know, you like to see stocks doing well, but also if that curls up, the positioning of the MACD is what we've really been talking about with Meta. It's really, really low. You haven't even tested the 5 yet. If you can take that back, you have a potential to go fill this gap. Do you immediately have high probabilities to test these levels, and go make a new one? Not necessarily with the positioning of the MACD. So you're going to want to build that up with some structure over time for Meta. I'm going to point out Microsoft if you are here for the live video. First of all, thank you for joining the live videos, and thank you guys for liking and subscribing to this channel so more people can see it. But during the live video, I just said Microsoft looked like a pretty good opportunity to me. I'm just worried about this move higher. I don't think we have 2 hours confirming here for Microsoft. We're going to check on that, but I do want to show that there was divergence down here at the same time for the MACD and RSI. So this was the one that I really liked. This is one that on the 2 hour still has not curled up, but it's a little closer than Meta to the center line. It means, hey, maybe we get rejected from this zone, maybe we go fill a gap, but there is a little bit more likelihood to test the high and go make a new one. And maybe we're going to be in a whole new series here. If we make that lower high and we reject, watch out if that does curl back down, because you will be close to negative territory, and then you will be very likely to go make that series of lows. AMC doing some good stuff, and this is something that I was looking into pretty much all day. I was researching into short selling and why they're doing it very, very heavily on stocks like IonQ, on stocks like Wolf and other things that a lot of people are invested in. So I'm just very interested why that's taking place now, right before NVIDIA earnings. It seems like they're really ramping it up right now. IonQ is seeing the highest short selling it has ever seen in the history of the stock. Now, I know it's relatively new, but we can see here that the 2 hour for AMC has not turned up. This thing, the short selling, is not at elevated, super elevated levels as of right now. We'll see as this progresses, but if that 2 hour turns up, it's always got a shot as long as the daily is positive, and that's the problem here. Ooh, it got rid of it at the end of the day. Okay, so I was really ready to analyze this with that daily actually curled down. That did not curl down. Very interesting. So watch if that 2 hour does curl up, and then if that 2 hour curls up, you need to see a move that takes you all the way past 496 to absolutely see something crazy. That will be crazy already if we see a move like this, but in order to see an absolute, like some kind of gamma squeeze, you got to get through 496 for AMC. If the daily does curl down tomorrow, then you're most likely going to take out the low and go make a new one. You are near negative territory. So being aware of these things is very good if you're trying to time this in some way or scale in at good opportunities. Well, the good opportunity would be if we cut that low and then we see that turn around and we see some kind of reversal signal down here on the MACD, on the RSI at the same time. Now, GameStop, this is not curling down on the daily. This thing is still positive in positive territory, which means it's always got a shot. And we always say, if you want to get through 3104, you got to have the daily turned up, the 2-hour turned up, and the 30-minute turned up at the same time. So let's check if we have all of those. Right now we have the daily turned up. Awesome, it's positive. We have the 2-hour, ooh, not turned up. So we still have some time here to see if this is going to get that upward move. Very nice to be closing at the high of day. And if that curls up, you see how that would really be the opportunity to see something crazy. So watch that 2-hour is what we see right away. Now, is at least the 30-minute positive? Most likely it is. There you go. We were able to turn it around and able to go positive. So that's all fantastic, except for the 2-hour. So now you're just looking, okay, if we're going to make that move higher, I need to see that 2-hour cross up into positive territory. I think it is very interesting that we are seeing GameStop actually gain some ground before NVIDIA earnings, because the belief out there is that NVIDIA is the one that pays to suppress GME. So we'll see how this shakes out. You need the daily, the 2-hour, and the 30-minute positive all at the same time. And that's potentially going to happen tomorrow if that 2-hour crosses up. Now, this morning, if you joined the live show, volatility did give us that hint, right? Volatility gave us the hint. This is what we were pointing out this morning during the live stream. The fact that the 30-minute divergence is there. And we talked about this creating that 30-minute divergence. So we were able to be aware of it before it happened. If you study the behavior enough, if you trade stocks enough, you can start to think, okay, when this happens or if this happens, this is how I'll react. And that's what we do here. We're not trying to fully predict. We're just being aware of how these things like to move and then ready to react. And so when you did cross over on this MACD to the downside, when that was crossing over on this 30-minute, that says the 2-hour has a good shot to turn down. That's when we started to base out at that daily expected move, and we started to bounce up towards the upside expected move, because we hit both today on the SPY. So that's fantastic. Now, one thing that can happen is we could always see that next push. So this is what I'm talking about. If volatility is going to come on in early on in the day, as implied volatility has increased dramatically actually for tomorrow, then we can see if this is actually curling up, if it remains in this kind of structure here, and if it's just getting that curl up and it actually fails, because that would be triple divergence here to the downside. So saying this positive trend that we're in right now can fail. So we'll pay attention to that going forward. If we're going to see positivity early on in the day, you already do have the 2-hour turned over, so that's slightly suggested, but we can see how if that turned down, we would probably see this thing start making its way towards maybe 1212, but we really want to pay attention in case that does hold up better towards 1504 and we see that curl up into positive territory and there was some kind of trap. So we'll try to stay aware of these things for you. I'm glad that we pointed out the 30-minute for volatility, and I'm glad that I say these things because then people in the chat can say, hey, this is happening over here, and we can go check on it. So thank you guys for being a part of this community, and let's pay attention to volatility and the SPY at the same time, because we just saw a signal here and it played out. The main takeaway for this video for tomorrow is we're probably going to see some rip around kind of moves, but all of the direction will most likely be decided by NVIDIA. And then after NVIDIA, we could also see a trap after that. So we'll pay attention to a lot of traps for tomorrow because implied volatility is bigger. You can see some bigger swings. And so we'll see if maybe we end up going down, then we end up going up, then we end up going down again because we make a reversal signal. We will be watching all of those things for you and reporting on it every night and be watching stocks with you every single morning, so make sure to join our live stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing, join the Patreon. A lot of people asking questions about the course. I think it's fantastic. A lot of people out there just trying to learn and asking questions. No question's a bad question, but at the end of it, hey, I just want you guys to have a good night. I want you guys to have all the luck in the world with your trades tomorrow, and I will be here live with you to talk about some stock market behavior. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.